Imagine watching your father get skinned alive, and you're expected to wear his flesh as part of a ceremony to become a man? Yeah, that actually happened. And that's just the opening act in the long, blood-soaked theater of human history, because today, we're not talking about your average tribal dance or some weird drink goat blood and vibe moment. Nope. We're going deep into the darkest, most cursed, most brain-meltingly disturbing rituals that humans have ever come up with. And trust me, it only gets worse from here. Number 1. The flesh-wearing ritual of the Aztecs. You've probably heard that the Aztecs were all about sacrifice. Hearts ripped out, blood flowing down pyramid steps, that kind of thing. But what most people don't realize is that those sacrifices were just the setup. The real horror show started after the killing was done. Meet Totec, the Aztec god of agriculture, fertility, and flaying. His name literally translates to the flayed one, and you can probably guess why. To honor him, Aztec priests didn't just sacrifice people, they skinned them alive, and then wore their skin in public like a ceremonial robe. But let's slow that down for a second, because this wasn't quick or painless. The victim, often a warrior captured in battle, would be tied up, still breathing, while a priest used obsidian blades, yes, stone knives, to carve away the flesh, layer by layer, and not with surgical precision. This was brutal, messy, painful beyond comprehension. The skin was removed like peeling a suit. Then it was sewn together and draped over a living person, usually another priest, who would wear it for up to 20 days. During those 20 days, the priest would perform dances, ceremonies, and parades, dripping in rot, while children tossed flowers at him like it was a parade. The decaying skin represented rebirth. As the flesh rotted and fell away, it symbolized crops growing, new life forming, the cycle of death and renewal. In their eyes, it was beautiful. To us, nightmare fuel. But here's what most people miss. This ritual wasn't just tolerated, it was celebrated. People would gather in huge crowds, bring their kids, sing songs, throw parties. It was seen as an honor to be chosen. Some victims even volunteered, because dying for Totec was believed to guarantee passage into paradise. And if you think that's the peak of historical insanity, wait until you see what Spartan boys had to go through just to be considered tough enough to survive their own puberty. Number 2. The Spartan Boy Torture Games. So now we jump from skin-wearing Aztecs to another group that basically turned childhood into a torture simulator. The Spartans. You've probably seen 300, right? The abs, the swords, the "this is Sparta" kick. Yeah, that's the Hollywood version. The real version? Way darker. Spartan boys didn't have birthdays, they had beatings. And not like strict dad with a belt type of beating. No. We're talking ceremonial whipping in front of an audience, where children were literally beaten within an inch of their life just to prove they were worthy of breathing Spartan air. The event was called the Diamastagosis, and it took place at the temple of Artemis Orthia. Picture this, a massive stone altar surrounded by citizens, priests, and politicians, mothers clutching their chests, tourists leaning in for a better view, and at the center, naked boys lined up and bracing for impact. Each boy took turns being lashed with rods, whips, and leather straps. No flinching, no crying, no backing out. If you made a sound, you were shamed. If you fell, you were dragged back up. And if you died, you were declared a hero. Yep, death was part of the tradition. There are actual records of boys bleeding out on the altar while the crowd clapped and cheered. And here's the twist. This wasn't punishment. This was training. In Spartan culture, pain wasn't just part of growing up. It was growing up. The logic was simple. If you can survive Diamastagosis, you can survive anything. Invading armies? Wild animals? Disease? Nah, man. You already tanked 50 lashes at age 12 in front of your crush. You're basically immortal. And just to make it worse, the priest would sometimes hide sharp rocks or glass in the whips to test endurance. As if getting lashed with leather wasn't enough. Now your back looks like it went through a meat grinder, and you're still expected to bow politely afterward. Parents encouraged it. Leaders admired it. And for the boys, it was a twisted badge of honor. But don't think Sparta had the monopoly on ritual suffering, because in certain parts of ancient Ethiopia, women accused of impurity faced something even more grotesque. Number 3. The blinding ritual of purity. In some remote Ethiopian communities, particularly pre-modern tribal sects, purity wasn't just a concept, it was a currency. And if you were a woman, your body wasn't yours. It belonged to the gods. And the only way to clean it was to destroy it. Enter the now nearly extinct and almost unspeakable ritual called the sight offering. The idea was rooted in spiritualism, but the practice was brutal. If a woman was suspected of adultery, disobedience, or even just bad luck, she could be chosen to be purified, chosen to lose her eyes, And I don't mean metaphorically, I mean she was led into a circle, sat on the ground, hands tied behind her back, while an elder priest held a pot of boiling water over her face. The boiling was never instant. They didn't just splash it, it was slowly poured, carefully, with intention, directly onto her eyelids and eyeballs as the rest of the community chanted. It was believed that blindness would block out temptation. By destroying the woman's physical sight, she could now see the truth within. And the worst was that it wasn't done in private. It was ceremonial. Children watched, men cheered. Some women cried, not out of sympathy, but fear. Because if it wasn't her today, it could be them tomorrow. After the burning, the woman was given a new name. Something like She Who Sees All or Mother of Clarity. Poetic on paper, horrifying in reality, because now she's blind, scarred, sometimes infected, and she's expected to walk among the villagers as a living warning sign. In certain versions of this ritual, the woman was expected to continue working, grinding grain, carrying water, cooking, as proof of her redemption. No rehab, no rest. You go blind for your village and you keep serving like nothing happened. And if she complained, that was seen as proof that she wasn't truly pure. Meaning, more punishment. It was a spiritual trap. You couldn't win. Even when you survived, you were only surviving so they could keep punishing you. And as messed up as that is, it's still not the most physically painful ritual on this list. Because up next, a tribe in the Amazon who forces their young boys to wear gloves filled with live venomous ants, while being expected to smile through the agony. Number 4. The bullet ant glove of death. Alright, time to talk about pain. Not, I stubbed my toe pain. Not, I got ghosted and cried in the shower pain. I'm talking raw, searing, body flipping, blackout level pain, served with a side of honor. Let me introduce you to the Satere Mawe tribe in the heart of the Amazon rainforest. These people are known for many things, but one ritual sets them apart. A coming-of-age tradition so brutal, even military veterans have tapped out when they tried it. It's called the bullet ant glove ceremony, and yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. The gloves are handmade out of leaves and natural fibers, and woven inside them, facing inward, are dozens of bullet ants. Live, angry, stinger first. Now, if you're not familiar with bullet ants, here's a quick rundown. They have the most painful sting of any insect on Earth. The sting has been described by entomologists as pure, intense, brilliant pain, like walking over flaming charcoal with a 3-inch nail embedded in your heel. In fact, it ranks at the very top of the Schmidt Pain Index, which is basically the Olympics of getting stung by horrible creatures. Now imagine not one sting, but hundreds simultaneously on your hands, and you're required to keep them on for a full 10 minutes. 10 full minutes! You're not allowed to scream or cry. You have to endure it in complete silence to prove you're worthy of being called a man. Some boys vomit from the pain, some collapse, others start hallucinating halfway through. One survivor said it felt like being electrocuted from the inside while your fingers melt. Nerves swell, muscles cramp, fingers lock up, and afterward, you're not done. Because this isn't a one-time thing. You have to do it 20 times. Yes, 20. Over the span of several months, boys go through this torment again and again, until they've completed their full pain curriculum. Why? Because pain in their culture is transformation. The ants represent nature. The sting represents your fight against weakness. To emerge from this ritual is to be reborn. Stronger, purer, warrior material. And the community celebrates you. You're honored, respected. You've proven yourself. But just think about that. While most of us are blowing out candles at 13, these boys are silently biting their tongue while poison pumps into their bloodstream through 50 angry jaws. It's one of the most extreme rites of passage ever recorded. And yet, not the most haunting. Because up next is a ritual where death isn't the end. In fact, it's just the appetizer. Number 5. The funeral cannibalism of the Four tribe. Let's head into the highlands of Papua New Guinea. Dense jungle, fog-covered mountains, and one tribe that turned death into dinner. The Four, pronounced for-a, believed something deeply spiritual about the dead. That the body of a loved one shouldn't be buried, it should be absorbed, literally. They practiced a sacred tradition known as endo-cannibalism, which basically means they ate their own family members, and not in some desperate post-apocalyptic survival way. This was ritualistic, intentional, and deeply loving. A final act of devotion. They believed that when someone died, their spirit would hover near their body until it was consumed. So, eating the flesh meant honoring them, allowing their soul to pass on and continue living through the family. Now, before you gag, understand. To the Four, this wasn't macabre. It was beautiful, an emotional, intimate moment of unity. But biologically, it was a nightmare. Because what the Four didn't know was that human brains, especially when consumed raw or improperly cooked, can carry prion diseases. The one that hit this tribe the hardest was a disease called kuru. Kuru is terrifying. It's like mad cow disease, but for humans. It eats away at the brain, causing tremors, loss of coordination, uncontrollable laughter, yes, that's real, and eventually, death. It was so unique, scientists named it after the tribe itself. Women and children were affected the most. Why? Because in Fore tradition, men ate the muscles. Women and children were left with the organs, including the brain. And so, generation after generation, kuru quietly spread. Families were unknowingly consuming a disease that targeted their minds, leaving villages haunted by twitching, trembling bodies. By the time Western researchers arrived in the mid-20th century, entire lineages had been wiped out. When the connection between the disease and the cannibalism was finally made, outside pressure caused the ritual to stop. But even decades later, elders in the region still speak of the practice with reverence. Because in their eyes, it wasn't horror, it was honor. And in a strange way, the pain they suffered only deepened their belief that the spirit lived on, even if it meant dying to carry it. Number 6. The self-mummification of the living Buddhas. So far, we've talked about rituals that were forced onto people. Kids, women, warriors. But what if I told you there's a ritual where the participant willingly becomes the sacrifice? And not just any sacrifice. A walking corpse. A person who slowly poisons themselves, locks themselves in a tomb alive and waits to die on purpose. Let's rewind to ancient Japan and China, where a now-banned tradition took place among a sect of Buddhist monks. It was called Sokushin Butsu, and it was one of the most extreme spiritual commitments ever practiced in human history. Here's how it worked. Step 1. You commit to a 3,000-day process. That's 8 years. 8 years of preparation to die. Step 2. You stop eating normal food entirely. Your diet shifts to pine needles, tree bark, and toxic nuts. You drink teas made from urushi tree sap, which is the same stuff used to make lacquer, aka wood varnish. Yes, wood varnish. You drink poison on purpose every day for years. Why? Because it kills the bacteria inside your body and begins preserving your flesh from the inside out. Step 3. You meditate. A lot. You stop speaking, moving, or showing emotions. You meditate in freezing temperatures. You embrace stillness. And all this time, you're slowly starving yourself, shrinking into skin and bones. Step 4. Once your body is ready, your fellow monks help you climb into a stone tomb, just big enough to sit cross-legged in the lotus position. You take with you a tiny bell, and then they seal the tomb, leaving only a small breathing tube. You ring the bell once a day, just to let them know you're still alive. And when the bell stops ringing, they seal it completely. You're buried alive. No food, no air, no water. Just silence, darkness, death. Years later, the tomb is opened. If your body has mummified perfectly with no rot or decay, you're declared a living Buddha, a holy figure, worshipped for eternity. You made it. But here's the horrifying part. Most monks didn't make it. Some decayed. Some were found with contorted limbs, suggesting they died in agony. Others simply disappeared into dust and memory. But the ones who did succeed, they're still sitting in temples across Asia today, perfectly preserved, still dressed in robes, faces frozen in eternal meditation. Some even have glass displays built around them, where people pray and leave offerings. They are seen as divine. But behind that glass is a human being who drank poison for 8 years, starved, and then died in a tomb, hoping for glory on the other side. And that brings us to the final question. Why did people go this far? Why did they burn skin, drink toxins, boil eyeballs, endure stings, eat the dead, and celebrate it like a holiday? It's tempting to think these people were crazy, lost, barbaric, but maybe, just maybe, they were committed to something bigger than themselves. Because when you look closely, you realize that all these rituals, no matter how disturbing, were rooted in the same desire to be accepted, to belong, to be transformed, to gain power, purity, protection, or peace. And while their methods make us wince today, their intentions weren't that different from ours. We still chase purpose, still want meaning, still sacrifice parts of ourselves, our time, our health, our sanity, for love, for validation, for belief. History doesn't just show us how far we've come, it shows us what we're still willing to do. And if these rituals prove anything, it's this. The human need to believe, even if it hurts, is sometimes the most powerful force of all.